So hello and welcome to the final session of the Women in IT stream at GSE this year. This is our fourth year, and this session is 4AC. It is sponsored by Dell Technologies, and it is Creative Thinking Brainware Upgrade. So before I introduce our wonderful facilitator for this session, I am going to ask all participants to remain on mute, to remind everybody that there is a social media contest, that the hashtag is #GSE UK 2021, and that you can tweet at GSE UKC, also on Facebook and Instagram, and all social media posts are happily accepted. The charities are the Guide Dogs for the Blind and the RNLI. So please donate should you wish to do so. This session will be recorded, and please remember at the end of the session to put feedback in the link in BYOA or via the QR code. So with that, I shall introduce you, Wesley. So our speaker for today is Wesley Costabel, who works with people who want to be more effective or feel more fulfilled. She does this as a keynote speaker, a corporate trainer and facilitator, and a coach. Wesley is accredited as a clinical hypnotherapist and as a practitioner of neurolinguistic programming, or NLP, specializing in emotional intelligence. She has taught creativity to petroleum engineers in Dubai and to the toy team at Disney. And with that, Wesley, I'm handing over to you.
Thank you. When I was volunteering at the Olympics in London, I asked some of the athletes whether they do guided visualization. And they looked at me as if I'd asked, hey, do you ever work out? It's like, yeah. Guided visualization has been proven time and time again to be a powerful tool, which is why we're going to do some of it. Then you combine that with brain incubation, something else we'll do. Charge it. Brain incubation is when you work really hard on something, and you've experienced this yourself, I'm sure. You work really hard on something, do something else. And while you're doing the something else, you have all these thoughts and ideas and things that come to you that are relevant to the thing that you were focusing on. Kind of like if you've ever worked really hard on writing something, and then you go out for a walk or take a shower or take the dogs out, and you suddenly think, oh yeah, I've got it. A famous user of this was Frederick Kalicki, who discovered the ring shape of the benzene molecule after he had a daydream about a snake seizing its tail, and he suddenly realized, that's it, it's round. So you know for yourself that you've probably had some weird or zany thoughts or imagining in that fraction of a moment between when your alarm goes off or something happens to wake you up and when you're fully awake. And if you've ever been in the shower or gardening and letting your mind wander, and you've suddenly thought, hey, every E in Mercedes is pronounced a different way. Isn't that interesting? So we're going to use that ability that you have naturally. We're going to put together guided visualization, bit of brain incubation in a context of trance. Put them together and you get magic. Now, what I mean by trance, yes, I am a clinical hypnotherapist, but this is not hypnosis. This is just a light trance state. It's kind of like if you are watching TV and not really paying attention, or maybe you've driven home the usual route and you don't even remember the drive. It's that sort of thing. We're just a bit tranced out. So it's not hypnosis, it's decaf. If you have any questions or anything that you want to say, please pop it into chat. But actually, I hope that you'll be blissfully tranced out and not even bothering with chat. And I can always answer questions either here or on my Facebook page, which is in the conference registration stuff. I love thinking of this as the easiest session at GSE because it is. You don't have to think, you don't have to make notes, you don't have to learn, you don't have to work, you don't have to socialize. Just be there. All you need to do, and you can do this, I'm going to talk for a moment more before we get started. You can do this while I talk. If you haven't already, throw on a blanket or a sweater or something, because often when we're in trance, we can start to feel a little chillier because we kind of slow down a little. So just throw something on to keep you toasty. And please shut down everything except this call, because this session is not suitable for multitasking, alarms, the phone, that sort of stuff. And it's just an hour. You can shut it off for an hour. Definitely important warning. Do not drive. Do not operate machinery. Do not do anything else that you would do if you'd had some alcohol to drink. If you're driving, you need to turn this off or pull over, please. Don't. So while you get that sorted out, I'm going to turn off my video because I've just had a message that connection is unstable and we want stability. There we go. So a few definitions. Guided visualization is basically, I tell you what to think about and you think of it. For example, could you please picture your front door if you painted it purple? There, you did it. And trance is, as I say, it's just being a little relaxed, spaced out. There's a psychology than hate, H-A-I-D-T. And he had a metaphor that was popularized by the Heath brothers. The metaphor is the elephant and the rider, where the elephant is your unconscious mind and the rider is your conscious mind. And the rider may think that they're in charge, but the elephant does what it wants. And you've already experienced that. If you've ever thought, like consciously, I am going to stop procrastinating, I will exercise more, I will eat healthfully. And then it's because the unconscious mind is saying, heck with that, I want to bite my nails. So trance is a way of influencing the elephant. It's a way of talking to your subconscious. So you can think of me as the elephant whisperer. Your conscious mind can still listen in, and that means that you're not going to do anything you don't want to do. You're not going to be writing me checks or anything like that. It just means that we have a way past the barriers to your unconscious. What it's going to be like, you'll feel relaxed, probably deliciously relaxed. You'll hear everything, you'll remember everything, unless you don't want to. And it's kind of like when my mother took some B12 vitamins and then the next day was saying, don't work, I don't feel any different. Well, no, Mom. Some people will have instant results. I had one person who came out of the session saying it didn't work at all because my mind was just crowded with all these wild ideas that kept springing up, something like that. And it's like, actually, I think it was working. Or you may have results that trickle through over time. You may not realize it, you may realize it. We'll just see how you go. This sort of trance work works best for people who are good at processes and following directions, who are intelligent and who are open to new ideas. So if that's you, you're in a good place. So our first step is to get yourself positioned so you can relax fully. And I find it easiest to lie down, frankly. But sitting is fine. Just make sure you can relax and that you're not having to put effort into staying upright. And if you do decide to just flop on the floor or nearest recliner or something, you might want to bend one arm at the elbow so that that hand is aimed at the ceiling. And what that does is if you get too sleepy, the hand falls down, hits the floor, and you'll be back to awake. So you'll get more from it when you don't go to sleep. At any point, if you want to like shift around or scratch an itch, you go for it. And it's kind of like when maybe if you're watching TV or listening to the radio late at night and you're tired and your eyes are closed and you're not really paying attention to what's going on. And yet if something happened, like if you heard a crash, you could instantly be awake and defog your brain. So that's what it's going to be like. And any noises that you hear outside can remind you of how quiet it is inside. And I have 2 dogs with me here. And if a dog barks, that can remind you that sometimes creative ideas and creativity sort of burst out as unstoppable as a dog suddenly barking. And I don't know if you would like to go into a trance now, or if you would like to, excuse me, go into a trance that's lighter, or go into a deep trance now. And your conscious mind is aware of the sounds from outside the room and is aware of the sounds in the room and is aware of my voice. And your conscious mind can choose, if you wish, to let any sound but my voice be a reminder of how quiet and still it can be inside. And your unconscious can start to relax now. The conscious mind can be aware of how heavy your body feels. And the conscious mind notices where the points of contact are between your body and the surface beneath you. Your conscious mind remembers how good it feels to relax totally now. And your conscious mind is aware of how hard you work. It's your unconscious mind that knows how to relax deeply and that enjoys to let go. Your conscious mind knows how creative people can be, how creative children can be, and that you were once a child full of creativity. Your unconscious knows that creative child is still within you. Your unconscious knows how to be as sparkly and creative now, and knows how to enjoy that lovely tickly feeling of coming up with new ideas. And the conscious mind hears the sound of my voice and knows that my voice will go with you through this session. And maybe your unconscious knows that my voice will go with you after this session and remembers all the times when you've been creative. Knows you have a sense of humor, which is, of course, a form of creativity. It is aware that you are being creative. Every time you have an idea, cook something different, find a new route to work, make a joke. The conscious mind can give you permission to switch off, because your unconscious knows that creativity can burst forward, as unstoppable as a sneeze. It can burst forward like a laugh. So your unconscious can stop trying. And your unconscious can just let go now. And maybe you don't think you're in a trance because you're evaluating trance with your conscious mind. But it's your unconscious that knows how to go into trance now. And maybe you've already noticed that as part of the trance, your tongue may feel a little too large to fit easily between your teeth. And maybe you've noticed that if you wanted to be bright and bouncy and alert right now, you could, but that actually this state feels deliciously relaxing and enjoyable. So you can just stay relaxed. As you are listening to me, and you're here for a reason, and you're here in this room, you're here in a real room, you're here in a virtual room, and a lot of the best creative ideas arrive out of nowhere. You're often at your most creative when you relax. And just as many of us have had creative ideas while in the shower or exercising or otherwise not focusing on being creative, so it's useful to take a little break every 90 minutes or so from what you're working on and see what results you get. Because as you become more and more creative, you'll be able to think around corners, see situations from different perspectives so that different ideas come forward. Impress people, liven your brain, and help your business and career survival. And feeling stuck. And just plain have more fun. You'll probably find that after this session, you'll feel more able to speak up in meetings with ideas that you have. That more ideas pop up when you're relaxing. You might start to keep a piece of paper or some sort of recording device with you at all times. You'll probably find you have a bit more humor and greater creativity in a wide variety of areas. So at work, with your hobbies, with where you go and what you do, with how you think. You'll probably be more aware of different approaches for working with clients and learning from them. That'll enhance how good you feel about yourself and how valued you are. And whomever you're around, you'll tend to be able to learn from them more effectively and see things more and more from their perspective. And these different views will give you different ideas. So would that be all right with you? Would you do that? You may have noticed times when your flows. You have possibly noticed times when you stop holding back and you blurt out ideas that are well received. You may have noticed how when you enjoy your creativity instead of criticizing your ideas, you get more creative. You can decide to let your creativity out. Because there's some research showing that the key difference between creative people and those who aren't creative is just that creative people think they're creative. So when you're open to, yeah, I'm creative, you'll be more likely to let your creativity pop out and surprise you the way children pop out with creative thoughts. And you've probably noticed that the way to come up with one really good idea is to come up with dozens of bad ideas. So when you get more and more creative, it's good that you come up with great ideas, and it's good that you come up with not so great ideas. The more you go for quantity, the more you get quality. The more you go for quantity of ideas, the more you get quality. So you can stay relaxed about ideas that aren't great. And it's important to make relaxed time and space for creativity. Maybe you'll start with taking time to do some free-form writing each morning. Just open a notebook and just start to write whatever's in your head without editing. And as you find that you're letting more and more creative ideas come into mind and you let your creativity out, maybe you'll keep pen and paper by the bed so you can write down those creative ideas that bubble up just as you're going to sleep, just as you're dreaming, just as you're awakening. Maybe you'll use the resources you have as opportunities for being more creative. Or maybe you'll do more other things to boost your creativity. And even when you don't have special space for your being creative, as you turn your attention to one focus, your subconscious mind is whirring away in the background like a computer operating system, generating ideas and solutions. These ideas may pop out when you least expect it. These ideas may pop out when you expect it. You'll have those eureka moments when you're in the bath, when you're traveling, when you're outdoors, when you're doing simple puzzles, when you're doing any task that requires you to be awake and doing something, but that doesn't take much mental effort, like doing the washing up. And there was a man named John who, throughout his life, was strangely obsessed with inventing a flaked breakfast cereal. It's just what he really wanted to do. And he used what we're describing, where you focus really hard on something and then let it go. It's called brain incubation. He used that. He focused on it so hard day after day. And then in the night, he had a dream. The process for this cereal came to him in a dream. And he got up in his dressing gown and went to the kitchen. And he did exactly the steps that he dreamt. He boiled wheat. He rolled it into strips. He baked it. It turned out to be delicious. John's last name was Kellogg. That's how Kellogg's cornflakes were invented. In a dream. I wonder when you'll start coming up with even more creative ideas in your sleep. Will it be last night? Tonight? Tomorrow night? So maybe you keep paper and pen by your bed, or keep a recording device by your bed, or find a way to capture the amazing creative thoughts that come to you as you fall asleep, as you sleep, as you emerge from sleep. And maybe you've heard other stories of people from different areas being inspired by one another. Like the physiotherapist who can spot the tiniest differences in people's walks, just in the way they move their bodies. And the police surveying CCTV that doesn't show the criminal's face, but shows how they walk. People from different areas can be very inspired by one another and learn together. And you're aware that you can learn so much from each other and from other areas. And sometimes when I'm working on a problem, I'll go to the library or to the bookstore or to a row of magazines, and I'll decide this one has the answer to what I'm working on. And I'll make sure it's something I would never normally read. So I might pick up Auto Mechanic magazine, and I've never owned a car. Or Bride and Groom. I'm not getting married. And I'll just decide the answer somewhere in there. And sure enough, I'll always find something. I'll realize, oh, what they're saying about tuning up cars before anything goes wrong to make them last longer and go further. I can use that. And a friend of mine who's a skydiver was talking about how he accidentally did 2 somersaults in the air instead of 1, because he was jumping off a glider instead of out of a plane. And he'd forgotten that there's not as much air pressure or wind when you're in a glider. He said, you need the pressure to keep on track. And I thought, oh, I need pressure to keep on track. Pressure's not a bad thing. If I'm feeling pressured, maybe it's okay. Maybe that helps me meet deadlines, get fired up. So perhaps you'll find yourself looking for and finding ideas and inspiration in magazines you'd never normally read, with someone from an entirely different field, from a hobby, or from an interest. Kind of like how the capture people, the people who make sure that you're not a robot online, they're working with ophthalmologists now. They're working with ophthalmologists because the techie capture people tend to be younger and have good eyesight. But a lot of the people using captures don't have such good eyesight and struggle to complete security tests. So the capture people are working with ophthalmologists to make the tests more effective for everyone. And often a useful tool to use to imagine, how would someone else tackle this issue? How would someone else tackle this issue? Especially if you're feeling a little stuck. So when people are feeling a little stuck, I've asked them, what would Richard Branson do? What would Margaret Thatcher do? What would Donald Duck do? What would your favorite from when you were growing up? What would they do? What would a 7-year-old do? And a lot of the best answers come from the what would a 7-year-old do question. I imagine how others would tackle an issue, and you can do that too. Ask yourself, what would this person do? And you may be completely wrong, that's fine. The idea is that it helps you generate ideas. You can even use yourself as the other person. You can even use yourself as the other person. I have a reputation in the corporate training world for coming up with very powerful and fun exercises and activities. And I love doing it. But here's a confession. I can have terrible trouble coming up with them for myself. I can do them for other trainers' topics, but it's hard to do for myself. And that's because whatever idea pops into my mind, I'm too quick to criticize it. Oh, that won't work because. So what do I do to get past that? I write out the brief and I send myself an email saying, "Dear Wesley, could you please come up with some ideas for me?" And then I respond to the email as if I'm responding to someone else. And it's great. I come up with loads of ideas because I'm not editing. I'm not thinking, oh, but how will I do this? I'm just coming up with ideas. And I come up with loads. And so many of them are absolute garbage. But they're always diamonds in the dirt. Because the best way to come up with one really good idea is to come up with 100 terrible ideas. So when you want to spark your creativity, you can imagine how others might tackle an issue. Or you could even imagine how you would tackle an issue. And as you do that, seek the second right answer. It's kind of easy to find what we think is the right answer and stop. When you push yourself to think of a second right answer, you'll get more creative. When I work with groups, I'll ask them how to stop a fish from smelling. And they'll come up with 2 or 3 ideas. And if I tell one group, I want you to come up with 12 ideas, they will. They'll be good ideas. And if I tell another little team in the same training, I want you to come up with 50 ideas, they'll do it. And their ideas get more and more creative as they go. They'll start with eat the fish or freeze the fish. That's how you stop a fish from smelling. By the time they get up to number 50, they're saying, to stop a fish from smelling, rub it with deodorant. Go to the perfume counter at the duty free and hide it so that the scent will overwhelm it. They're coming up with all sorts of stuff. And if they'd stopped at that first right answer, they never would have come up with it. So as you become more and more creative, one of the things you might find you're doing is looking for the second right answer, and then the third, and then the fourth, because here's the secret. Outside physics, there usually isn't one right answer. And sometimes even in physics. And you'll find that during your spare moments, your thoughts tend to turn to whatever issue you'd like to think creatively about. And these frequent moments of extra attention will keep new ideas frequently forming in your mind, even when you're consciously preoccupied with other matters. You may not be even aware of them. But because of this extra attention, new ideas, new associations, new innovations will frequently emerge into your awareness as though unbidden. And when you focus on the situation consciously and deliberately, then these new ideas and associations will flow even more freely, providing a steady stream of inspiration. And you'll be able to maintain continuous contact with these vast, unlimited resources of creativity that lie within you, that lie within all of us. You'll be able to carry out alterations and changes of direction without any reluctance on your part to change course, without striving for perfection for its own sake. You'll just be more nimble. And each time you've finished focusing consciously on an issue, or each time the segment of the work is complete, you can feel pride, achievement, sense of accomplishment that stem from the growing realization that you're applying your abilities fully and well. You're using more of your brain. And you'll experience creativity as a more spontaneous, natural, and joyful process that lets you make the most of your potential. Because you will work hard and then let yourself take a break and do something completely different, being open to new ideas that spring forward. And you'll let yourself get more creative. You'll give yourself permission to come up with lots of good ideas and with lots of bad ideas, so you can stay relaxed about the bad ideas because they're good, all part of the process. Maybe you'll make time and space for creativity with free-form writing or keeping a pen by the bed, Or if you've got 20 minutes to kill waiting for a train, hop into the bookstore. Look at a book or magazine you'd never normally read. See what it sparks. And even when you don't make special space for your being creative, your subconscious will keep whirring away like an operating system. And just let yourself enjoy those spontaneous moments, spontaneous and unstoppable as a cough. Kind of like John Kellogg. So maybe you have pen or paper or some way of recording kept by your bed for all those amazing thoughts in and on the edges of sleep. Or maybe you'll do more hanging out with weird people, reading different stuff, going to things you'd never normally go to, spotting all the new connections that you can spot, because that's the heart of creativity. Or it might be about imagining how others would tackle the issue, imagining how you would tackle the issue. Looking for the answer. And as your creativity continues to increase, your ability to innovate, that lovely, sparky, fizzy feeling of, I have an idea, which actually reduces lots of happy, feel-good chemicals in our brains. As you do that, you will feel good. Roger Ach says, creativity is mental sex. And maybe you've all noticed that you have a little bit more of that creative vibe going on, or that you're a bit more in tune with that inner creativity that you had as a child and that you still have. Maybe you haven't noticed those flickers yet, but they're on the way. And you will in the seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years to come. And you know, maybe you won't notice, but other people will notice. They'll notice that you seem to have a little more spark and sparkle, that you're a good ideas generator, that you're someone who comes up with things that are fresh. And that you often say, oh, I'm just throwing this out there. And sometimes you have bad ideas, sometimes you have fantastic ideas. And that you're relaxed with that. Maybe you'll notice it immediately. Maybe you won't notice immediately. Maybe others will. Maybe you'll notice tomorrow. Maybe you'll think you don't notice, but your subconscious does notice. And I wonder what the first signs will be. Will it be that little buzz of fun for just little things like, why didn't I ever think of that? Putting the kettle over there, moving it there works so much better. Maybe it'll be big things. The answer to something you've been tussling with for a long time. Maybe you'll just notice that you notice more when you're out on walks. Previously, you might have stormed down the street, but now you notice, oh, yesterday that tree had lots of leaves. Today, so many leaves. Because the more variety of inputs you let into your mind, the more creative you'll be. You don't have to make it work. You can just let it work. You can just let your creativity work. because you are creative. If you weren't creative, you wouldn't have ever been able to make a joke, find a new route to work, decide where things go in a drawer. You are creative. And what you can do with this session is take from this and remember everything that's useful and that's safe and healthy for you and others. Everything useful, everything that's safe and healthy for you and others. Maybe things you want to try or play with. And if something wasn't useful, or even more, if it wasn't safe and healthy for you and for other people, you can just let that bit slip away. Or you can change it to something better. Because the best way to have one good idea is to have 100 bad ones. So just take from this session what is good and safe and useful, respectful of you and of others around you. And you can just ignore the rest. And your unconscious mind already knows all the bits that are worth hanging on to. And your unconscious will remember them and use them. And your conscious mind may also remember and use them. That's okay too. And you can just let it all that's useful, safe, and healthy, sink in and stay with you. And if you have your eyes shut still, then keep them shut, but just imagine, how will it look when I open my eyes? Will the room seem awfully bright? What will I see? Or if you have your eyes open, ask yourself, what would I see if I turned to my left? Be as specific as you can, thinking I would see the wall, sort of a pumpkin-colored paint. There's one little crack in it. And the edges are bumpy because it's an old house. So notice what you would see to your left, or if you have your eyes shut, what you'll see when you open your eyes. And notice any noises inside your room, inside your virtual room, inside your real room. Maybe you hear my desk creaking, or maybe you hear a Cocker Spaniel snoring. She's been softly snoring next to me. And notice any noises outside the room. Maybe traffic or people speaking. Someone running a load of laundry. Notice the noises outside the room. And wiggle your toes and wiggle your fingers. And there are dogs barking outside, so we might have one barking inside at any moment. Wiggle, stretch. Oh, if you've been relaxed, it's going to feel so good to stretch. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Open your eyes. We're wide awake. Open your eyes. And, oh, now the dog's up here and awake. And could you please, if you can stand up. I'm doing this too. And do some star jumps. Watch out, doggy. Okay, I've done some star jumps. And if you're doing any driving or operating heavy machinery, do some more star. Oh, hello, dog. Sorry, do some more star jumps first. And know that when you turn on that ignition, you will be bright and sparky and absolutely focused as you drive more skillfully and carefully than you ever have before. We will end our session here. And I would love for you to hit me up on Facebook and let me know what changes you notice as you get more and more creative. Thank you. Over to you, Aileen.
Thank you very much, Resley. I am now wide awake and alive, and I'm full of energy, which I knew I would be after this. So thank you for that. Thank you to all of our participants today. Please remember to do your feedback. Today's session was sponsored by Dell Technologies. Let's see, the charities are the Guide Dogs for the Blind and the RNLI. So please do donate to the charities, and donations will result in being entered into the raffle. And there are some really cool prizes there. And with that, yeah, thank you, Resley. We'll close the meeting.
Thank you.
Oh, and don't forget, Resley has a talk on imposter syndrome lunchtime. Is that tomorrow?
It is tomorrow.
Yeah.
From 1 till 2, imposter syndrome. Lunch and learn. Bring a sandwich, feed your face, learn.
It's going to be amazing.
I hope so.
Yeah. So that's it. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.